What's up, gang? I'm sure you're in the middle of OKR setting, so I just wanted to do a really quick video with some tips for you just to be thinking about as you're going through this process. So, number one, make sure you're including the team or the group that you're going to be working on to actually deliver on this OKR. OKR is a team sport, so you want to keep them involved and engaged. Number two, remember, this is about creating targets that we can make progress on through the quarter. It can't be something that is about getting ready to go, getting some sort of plan in place. It's got to be actually about driving outcomes. I'm going to give you some tips in a moment, just how to do that. First, when you get to your OKR setting workshop, you're going to want to come up with your objective. Now, with your group, this is going to be an inspiring statement of what you want to achieve. It's going to be something really engaging, really encouraging, something that gets everyone jumping out of bed and really excited to be achieving something of meaning and purpose. So what I like to do is actually write our objectives as news headlines. So here's a bit of an example. Doctors are shocked by the game-changing quizzes that we do. Something like that. Now, maybe that doesn't light your heart on fire. Whatever the case is though, create it as a news headline, something that is something you can achieve within the quarter, something that's meaningful, gets people really sort of understanding what we're trying to achieve and hints at the why. You can always write the why separately. And in fact, I always do. I encourage that. But the objective should be something really meaty and tangible. Of course, as a group, you only want to have about one OKR to work on because we want to drive that focus. So try and keep it down just to one. Then comes the key results. These are your measures of progress. So we're going to have targets in there that can see us making progress towards this from an outcome perspective. So not what you're going to do. It's not going to be like, hey, we're going to write 100 quizzes and we're going to see progress on that. But what we might say is we want to see the outcome of those quizzes. So we might want to see engagement on the quizzes increase. We might not want to see the number of people completing quizzes to increase. Now, the best way to write a key result, and this is really a sanity check, if you have a key result that doesn't look like this, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to give you a bit of a red flag, something that you want to have to think about. So what you want to have is a statement of the metric. So we want to increase the number of quizzes completed by people. And we're going to have a starting metric. So maybe it's 200 a month and increase it to 300 a month. So what that would read is basically increase the number of quizzes people are completing from 200 per month to 300 per month. And what that means is that we can make progress on that through the quarter. We don't need to really redo things and start from the foundations again. We can chip away at that. What I like to do is think about here small experiments. What are some small things you can do to make progress on that? Can you run a small experiment with a small group of volunteers and just say, hey, we want to test out some new quizzes. We want to see what you think of them. We want to see if you actually go through and complete all the quizzes. So come along and have a look at them. And you can do this with a group as small as 5 or 10 people. It doesn't need to be massive. And what you can see is by doing that little experiment, maybe you've redone the quizzes, maybe it's you've redone how the quizzes are completed, whatever is relevant to you. Again, you're probably not doing quizzes. It could be totally something different. But whatever it is, what is something small that you can test with a portion of the customers rather than all of them, a smaller sort of group, and see how that goes. If you're making progress, then roll it out to a few more people. You might want to do it so it's a little bit sort of manual process in the beginning just to see if it makes a move, if people actually do like what you're doing. And if you don't actually move the metrics, then you want to go back to the drawing board. So there's no point sort of automating and building all this process around it if you're just trying to test it out. Another way might be thinking about this for an internal thing. So that might be if we're doing something for customers, but if we're doing something for inside the business, might even be a training program on leadership. Let's say we want to do a leadership training program. Rather than designing a whole program, design maybe even just what the thing might look like at a high level, build out the rough outline and maybe some of the structure of the first sort of module and try that out with just a small number of people within the business. So rather than saying we're going to roll this out to all staff or all leaders, just pick a small group, test it out. How did they go? Was it good? Did it land? If so, great. Now let's design the next module and start to push this out a little bit further to more people. And what you'll find is you can build this as the quarter sort of goes. So those are my tips. Make sure your key results have a metric in there, both the starting metric and the target metric. We also want to be able to do things in small sort of increments and small sort of experiments. And we definitely want to do that by testing it out with small audiences that make it nice and safe to fail. Remember, your key results, on average, we should hit about 70% of them by the end of the quarter. So make sure they're lofty. There is nothing bad that comes from falling short. There's nothing necessarily bad that comes from overshooting either. But of course, we want to try and get to that 70% mark to be successful. Gang, if you do need any help or questions, please do reach out to me. And I'm very excited to see how you all go with all this quarterly planning. Talk soon.